right, guys. What are we? What are we doing here? Four streams in one day. Um. All right. I mean, this is one of the biggest meltdowns I've seen by an altcoin. It went down like 50%. You're talking about Luna here, 50% basically in one day. It's pretty crazy, to think about. But anyways, it's down 56% on the week. And the main issue, as many of you are probably aware, is that UST has apparently depegged and it's now below 70 cents, which presents a problem, right? This fundamentally presents a problem. You can't have this, right? It's not the nature of stable coins to drop 30%. So obviously this presents an issue, and one of the main things that I think is going to cause ripples for a while is the fact that a lot of people are going to lose some confidence in some altcoins, and hence the dominance should go up. I keep saying I feel like I'm going to grow old waiting for the Bitcoin dominance to go up, but it needs to go up a lot. It's at 42%. We need to see this thing at like 60% if you guys want to see another bull run. Okay, so Bitcoin dominance needs to go up a lot. This, what we're looking at here in crypto, this is not a good thing when you're seeing stable coins depeg like this. Okay, so what are the three main things I've told you for the last like 4 months? The three main things. Number one, right? Number one, you guys should know it at this point, is cash is king, right? Stack cash, it's king. Okay, cash is king, is number one. Number two, alts are extremely risky, right? Alts are, I can't write like this. This is ridiculous. Alts are extremely risky. And number three, if you get the urge to YOLO alts, go take a cold shower and reconsider. Why don't I okay, so cash is king, right? So cash is king. Alts are extremely risky. And if you get the urge to YOLO alts, go take a shower and reconsider, right? Go reconsider it while you take a cold shower. And you tell me if what you're buying in a bear market is really worth it, okay? Is really worth it. Now, listen. I've had a lot of people come to me recently because they don't like me saying this stuff about altcoins, and they say, well, you're not considering, that this community over here is implementing some protocol next month, or, this community has a really great, or this project has a really great community, so you're not talking about them. Or, I'm being too deterministic about the dominance needing to go up, which is probably true. I'll concede that one. But I'm telling you now, when the markets are risk off, none of that stuff matters. Not one thing. It does not matter. It just simply does not matter. Like, no one cares about that sort of stuff when the markets are risk off. All they're concerned with is how quickly can they sell. That's all they care about. The fundamentals go out the window in a bear market like this. Okay, the fundamentals, you start to look at the fundamentals more. Okay, so when you're at the pits of a bear market, that's when you really have to study the fundamentals and then figure out what's going to do next in the next bull market, or do well in the next bull market. But during the downtrend, it doesn't mean a thing. I mean, they just don't mean a thing. Everything just goes down, whether it's the best thing since sliced bread or whether you have something that's completely depegging from the dollar and it's meant to be a stable coin. So, it's the truth. I wish someone had told me it in the past. No one ever did. I'm telling you now, that stuff doesn't matter. It just simply does not matter. Everything gets wrecked basically about the same. Okay? So, one of the things that I think is the most difficult in this market is that it's challenging to identify what is the fair value of an altcoin, right? Because they've been inflated for so long that you really don't know. I mean, they're these magical numbers sort of that exist. But when you think about, okay, well, is this project worth 300 billion or is that one worth 20 billion? A lot of times the answer is no. And a lot of these coins end up dropping significantly in a bear market. So, I will remind you yet again that altcoins remain highly risky, okay? And from the comments, it seems like some people heeded that advice over the last several months. I know there were some times that it seemed like it might not have panned out because of this move here in really in February and in March. It maybe wouldn't have panned out. But at the end of the day, you can see what's happened. I mean, Bitcoin is plunged and a lot of altcoins have taken an even bigger hit. So what are some things that we would like to assume going forward? Well, one of the things that it should be fairly safe to assume, right, is that Bitcoin trends higher with time. Now, in a bear market, I know you roll your eyes at that and you don't want to hear it. But what I mean by that is that, the exposure to the asset class right now should be focused on Bitcoin, in my opinion, not the altcoins. Okay? There's a time and a place for altcoins, and there's a time and place not for them. And look, I've spoken about altcoins on the channel, but I've also been here to tell you over the last several months, they're really risky right now, and they're going to remain risky for a while longer. And this is the thing, okay? When something like this happens, confidence is gone for a while. Okay, so could altcoins bounce next week? Of course, anything could happen, right? But the point is that who will trust it? Who's going to trust the market at this point? Who's going to trust the altcoin market when you see stuff like this happen? Not a lot of people in the short term. Bitcoin, though, does not have this issue, right? It does not have that issue. Now, it might be affected by that issue, but ultimately Bitcoin will leave this phase stronger, whereas there's going to be a lot of altcoins that don't, okay? So this is not the time to be YOLO, in my opinion, not financial advice. This is not the time, in my opinion, to be YOLOing into altcoins. And, if you get the urge, you just read step number 3. If you get the urge to YOLO alts, you go take a cold shower and you reconsider, okay? That's the point. And if you don't understand why, you go to point number 2 and you say, oh, because alts are extremely risky. Why are they extremely risky? Because we're in a risk-off environment right now and cash is king. And because of all this, right, you have to look at the market structure, and Bitcoin has now put in a lower low, okay, just like it did in 2018, and that's where the dominance goes up, right? This is where it should go up. I mean, we'll see if it does, and you know what? If it doesn't, maybe I'll do a stream where I let you guys roast me on it, and you guys can brag about all the altcoins that are outperforming Bitcoin. But I'm telling you now, I think if I were to assign a probability to it, okay, I think there's probably like a 90%, probably, hopefully I don't eat my words here, but that's how much conviction I feel in this statement. I would say there's like a 90% probability that the dominance is going this way, okay? with like 90% probability, the dominance should go up here. Okay? I think that the red weekly candle last week is sort of akin to this red weekly candle, and that it was sort of like the last fake out before the dominance is going to go much higher. All right? So, with that in mind, this move, once the dominance started moving, it lasted, I mean, really it started in April. It lasted about 4 months or so, and the dominance went up. I mean, it went up from 40% or so up to 60 something percent, like just over 60%. Okay? So, what I'm looking for, and I don't really think it makes sense to talk about a bull market right now until the dominance gets higher. Once the dominance gets higher, we can talk about a bull market. But until that time, what you're likely going to see happen, okay, you're likely going to see happen over the next 3 months or so, Bitcoin. What if Bitcoin does something like this? What do you think is going to happen if Bitcoin does something like this? Like that. So let's walk through that scenario really quick. Okay, look, no one knows what's going to happen, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend like that I do know, because I don't know exactly what's going to happen. But let's walk through a scenario. And one scenario is where Bitcoin gets a bounce at somewhere, some level, probably somewhere between, here and a few $1,000s or so. I don't know exactly where, unless we just capitulate to the 200 week or something. But if we get a bounce and go back up, right, to the trend line, the 200-day moving average at approximately 40K or something when it happens. If that happens, which by the way is a big if, and I'll again show you why that's a big if in a minute. But if that happens, what do you think happens to altcoins? Okay, I'll tell you what happens. When Bitcoin pumps, they don't pump as much as Bitcoin. And when Bitcoin dumps, they don't dump as much, or they dump more than Bitcoin. So they get washed out. This phase in 2018 was so brutal for altcoins. I mean, it was absolutely absurd what altcoins did during that time. And what was crazy is that Bitcoin stayed the same price, right? So let's imagine a scenario. One possible scenario for Bitcoin, right, is that it just plays in the sandbox between, let's say, 25 to 40K or something for the next 3 months. Okay, that's one possible scenario that could play out. I don't see a path in that type of situation where altcoins don't get wrecked, okay? So, against Bitcoin, right? Against Bitcoin. I just don't see a path where they don't get wrecked. If I don't see a path where they don't get wrecked, why would I put my money into alts? Right? I wouldn't, okay? So, if I can't see the clear path, there's just no point. Now, I know there's people saying that now's the time to buy the dip on altcoins, and I'll concede this. In the short term, you could be right? Like you could easily see some bounces. But I will say, my guess is that it's going to get worse before it gets better in a sustainable way. I don't want to hear it if the altcoins go up 10, 20%. No one's getting out of bed for that, right? But in terms of actually seeing a sustained move by the altcoin market higher, it's likely not happening for months to come, okay? So the first thing you need to do is you need to get out of the mindset of an alt season. Okay, I've said this for months now, right? I see the trolling comments down below. I see them all the time. I just choose to ignore them. But I see the trolling comments saying that no, alt season's going to happen. You don't know what you're talking about. Just wait till we get the bounce to the whatever some golden pocket BS or something. That's what they say, right? No, there's not happening more than likely. I mean, anything can happen, but is there a strong likelihood that alt season is around the corner? No. Normally when you drop below the 100-week moving average, this is not. I mean, this is basically just a recipe to ultimately go down to the 200-week. Not a time to assume that alt season's is around the corner. One of the dangers assuming that alt season's around the corner is it constantly elicits that FOMO, right? You don't want to sell your altcoins, or you don't want to buy, or you don't want to not buy them because you're constantly worried they're going to go up next week. But listen, even if they go up next week, it's likely not in any sustainable manner, okay? We need to understand that. You don't watch a stablecoin depeg by 35% and expect the market to just return to normal next week where all the altcoins go parabolic, right? Now, could they go up 20% or something? Maybe. I don't care about that. I'm not here for the day trading. Okay, maybe you are, but I'm not. At least not publicly, right? So I would like people to consider from a fundamental perspective, right? So from a fundamental perspective, how will market participants have confidence in the altcoin market when things like this can happen, right? Where you see something where a stablecoin depegs by 35%, where you watch Luna drop 50% in a day, okay? This is not just another day in the cryptoverse, okay? We're potentially building up to a major market cycle bottom here. And I'll tell you this, the one main way that I got wrecked in prior cycles is I came in too soon. Okay, I came in too soon. So I've been over this a number of times today. I'll go over it again for the people that maybe missed the other 3 streams that I did today. I don't know, what am I doing? 4 streams in a day. I guess I don't really have a life, but you guys already knew that. So again, 2014 is sort of that was my sort of like my hazing process through crypto. That's where I bought all these dips, really on altcoins because I was just like, people don't understand, and I got wrecked, and I didn't have anything to put in the market down here. I didn't have anything. Okay, so it made this phase so much more painful because I didn't really have anything left to put in it. And then over here, I kept some cash. I was like, well, 6K is probably the bottom, and most people thought it was the bottom. A lot of people did. There were some people that didn't. So I'm not trying to say it's everyone, but there's some people that didn't. And then the bottom fell out. We dropped another 50%. At least I had some cash, but I could have had more. Could have had more. All right. So as I've said the last few months, this is not the phase to be buying the dip. Okay, this is not the buy the dip, ANOT. Like, this is not. You don't want to do that. This is not like the phase on altcoins where you want to scoop up every single dip, because what happens if you buy the dip and the dip keeps dipping, right? Like, you don't have any cash to put in. Like, it's easy for people to just say buy the dip, but in practice, if you don't exercise some restraint on altcoins, you don't actually have any money to buy the dip with. Okay, so it's easier to say buy the dip than it is actually to do it. So I'm telling you now, as I've said literally for the last several months, altcoins remain incredibly risky. This is not the time to be YOLOing into altcoins. You need to understand that when something like this happens with altcoins, and you see things happening where you see stable coins depegging, you see altcoins dropping 50% in a day, you see major public figures in crypto leaving the space. This is the time. This is crypto winter. This is what it feels like. Okay, so get comfortable. This is what it feels like. If you've wondered what it's like, this is it. Yeah, this is it. I mean, this is what we've talked about before. Is a crypto winter. So I mean, winter is coming. You could argue it's already here. A lot of times, I think when we think about crypto winter, we kind of think about down here, but I think leading into it, you could also call it is crypto winter as well. But when it comes to, I'll get to the questions in a minute, guys. I see the chat sort of going crazy right now. But when it gets to these sort of phases in the market, you need to exercise patience. It's so hard to do if this is your first cycle, because everything, like all the altcoins that you're looking at, they seem cheap. But I'll say this again. If you joined crypto in 2021, you don't know what a cheap altcoin is. You don't, because you've only ever seen them at very high valuations with respect to their Bitcoin and their Ether and their USD valuations. Like, you don't know what a cheap altcoin is. Okay, when you start seeing some of them down 95%, then you can say you know what a cheap altcoin is. Okay, so don't tell me you know what they are, because you probably don't if you weren't in crypto before 2021. So you need to be understanding of the fact. Well, maybe I shouldn't say fact, because I could be wrong. I've been wrong about plenty of things, right? So you should be understanding of the position that I have, in that how can you assume the altcoin market will recover in a sustainable way in the short term when investor confidence in some of these altcoins are absolutely destroyed? You won't. Okay, it's the cold hard truth. You're not going to see it return right now. So what does that mean? It means cash is king. It means alts are extremely risky. And if you get the urge to YOLO alts, go take a cold shower and reconsider. And literally every time I post this on Twitter, everyone says, oh, don't listen to these guys. They don't know what they're talking about. All I can see is altcoins continuing to plummet literally hour after hour. So again, it's easy to sit behind a keyboard and make fun of someone for saying, alts are extremely risky. But when that person's also just going to sit there and keep saying buy the dip, for the next several months, that's also not very helpful. So, when you look at this chart for Bitcoin and you see us go below the 100-week SMA, you have to understand that the path of least resistance is to ultimately make our way down to the 200-week SMA. That's the path of least resistance, okay? And how does Bitcoin go to 22K and not wreck altcoins? How does it happen? Well, it doesn't happen, right? There's no way Bitcoin can go to 22K and not absolutely wreck the altcoin market, okay? It's already wrecked, and it's just a matter of it getting wrecked more. So it just simply cannot happen. Therefore, alts are risky, right? Exposure to the asset class, I think, should mainly be with Bitcoin and not altcoins. So yeah, people keep saying, does an alt equal Ethereum? I don't consider ETH an alt. I don't. But I'll tell you this now, as I've said for months now. Go look at the last like two videos on my channel about Ether, maybe 3. I'm an Ether bull. I am. You might not believe it right now. I am an Ether bull, but I'm also here to tell you, as an Ether bull, as someone that I literally made a video in September of 2019 saying this was the momentum shift of the Ether Bitcoin valuation, right? Literally in September of 2019. So try to heed these words with the sincerity that I want them to be. Okay? So what I mean by all this is let me see. Trying to fix this. Okay. Here's the video. Okay, I'm not making this stuff up, guys, right? Like, here's the video. Okay, so here was September of 2019, right here. I put out, it's literally the first video on my channel that you'll see, okay? Timing the long-term momentum shifts, okay? We were talking back then about how we were basically at this long-term momentum shift of the Ether Bitcoin valuation, okay? So at around 0.016. Now, my best guess for Ether's valuation against Bitcoin, and look, I mean, I don't say, again, it's not a hill I'm going to die on, but I do think it will trend higher with time, okay? So maybe one way to sort of think about this is to think about some type of regression curve or something. I need to actually code this up, but something like this where, where basically the idea is that you have sort of like a fair value of the Ether Bitcoin valuation, and you get these moves that come off of it. Now, I look at this and I think there's a higher chance in the short term that it comes down than goes up. Okay? That's what I think. Now, am I going to die on that hill if it goes up? No. I still own Ethereum. It's the number 2 position in my portfolio, okay? Number 2, after Bitcoin, of course. My position in Bitcoin is a lot larger by percentage than Ether. So if Ether outperforms Bitcoin here, so be it, right? It won't be the first thing I've been wrong about, right? It won't be the first thing. But, when I look at this type of stuff, I can't help but wonder, like, how is this not? I mean, normally from summer until the end of the year, that's when Ether Bitcoin bleeds. Summer until, really like summer until the end of the year, okay? And really, the only time it hasn't really done it was last year. Is it a change in the trend? Maybe. What happens if Ether Bitcoin goes up? Well, I mean, it goes up, right? It goes up. But I don't know. I mean, you guys see the market? I think it's more likely that it goes down. Okay, so I don't consider ETH an alt. I do think it's more likely that Ether Bitcoin goes down than up. And by the way, Ether's valuation against Bitcoin could go down. Bitcoin USD might go up. I mean, that's kind of weird to think about. That's exactly what happened in 2018. I mean, on this bounce right here by Bitcoin in June. So look at this. June 2018, Bitcoin bounced in June of 2018. What do you think happened to Ether Bitcoin in June of 2018? What do you think? June 2018. Whew. That's where it dropped. Where did it drop? It dropped after Bitcoin bounced and put in a lower low. Okay? So am I gonna, take this thing to the bank and say that Ether Bitcoin can't go put in a new all-time high? I'm not, but I think it's a lot more likely that it's gonna go down over the next 6 months. And then if it does play out, which is a big if, I guess, right? It's a big if, but if it does play out, then I think you'd be looking at some type of a bounce there. Okay, so I sort of look at this market and say, if this is a distribution phase of the Ether Bitcoin valuation, if that's what this is, and we come back down this way, I think you'll see some type of a bounce in late this year, going into early next year of the Ether Bitcoin valuation, and we continue on, and then maybe out in 2023 or 20, as we come out here, maybe we get another type of move like this again. That's what Bitcoin did, right? Bitcoin can do it, so can ETH against Bitcoin. But while I still am very optimistic about Ether over the long haul, I do wonder about its ability to hold these valuations against Bitcoin for the next 6 months. So that's my main concern right now. So I don't consider it an alt. I will say Ether's likely going to hold up better than all the altcoins, or at least most of them. Okay, it probably will hold up better than most of the altcoins. So I think you will find some relative safety in Ethereum over some altcoins. I think a lot of altcoins will bleed against ETH. But you need to understand that if this happens, that's where the Bitcoin dominance goes up. And you might see Bitcoin dominance go up upwards of 50 to 60%. Okay, so please understand, I do not say this stuff as just unnecessary FUD. I say it because there's a good chance that it happens. And if it does happen, you need to be prepared. So that's where that's ultimately, I think, where we currently stand. And I mean, I think really in the short term, the main thing to consider with Bitcoin is, where the hell is this thing going to hit some type of a short-term bottom, right? I mean, you have the corridor. You could always look to that. It's done a really decent job of calling the bottom the last 2 times in the summer of 2021 and in January of 2022. That currently corresponds to 26.3K. Okay, so that's where it currently is. Something to consider, though, with respect to the 200-week moving average, is that the last time that we hit the 200-week moving average, it actually corresponded to the corridor getting to the 200-week moving average. So if that's going to happen, it would still take another month or two, right? Like, it would take another month or two for that to actually play out. So I think people need to look at this market and just consider that in the short term, things could bounce, right, at some of these levels, plus or minus a few $1,000s. But I think over the next several months, a lot of investors are probably so spooked by the current market conditions that they just want to get out and have nothing to do with it again. And that probably is actually hitting home to some people here. And I understand the way you feel, and I actually also felt more or less the same way back in 2014. I rode this thing all the way down, and I basically become very, very apathetic over here, and I didn't really believe this market anymore in late 2014 and 2015. But ultimately the market came back, and then it died again, and then it came back again in 2019, and then it died again, and then it came back again in late 2020 and early 2021, and then we played in the sandbox for 3 months. And then we went up, and then it died again. Okay, so the market comes and goes. I understand your frustration. I felt it too before. The truth is that a lot of the people that are going to get shaken out now will likely only return once it's back on the front news of CNBC, in 1 or 2 years or something, and then they'll fall to the same mistakes that they did this time. But if you want to have a chance at things like opportunity phases of a lifetime and all that sort of stuff, you have to stick around, or you at least need to keep one eye on the market. Maybe you check it once a week or something. And if you see those valuations hit those levels that we've talked about, that's when you have to say, hey, wait a second. What if we repeat, but this time you want to buy when no one else wants to? Okay. It's the hard thing about altcoins, and I bought some altcoins. I remember buying ADA at 10 cents in 2018, and then it dropped to 2 cents. I mean, you guys might laugh at that when it went to $3, but it was an 80% drop after I thought it had already bottomed. So, the altcoin stuff is risky. I mean, that will be equivalent to buying like an altcoin today and then watching it drop 80%. Like it'd be equivalent to like buying DOT at $10 and then watching it drop to $2, or buying Avalanche at 40 and watching it drop to 5, or buying Matic at 80 cents or something and watching it drop, all the way down to. So I mean, I think the thing is like, it's easy to look back on these things and in the when you're in a bull market and say you wish you bought. It's a lot harder to stomach those moves as you actually go through it. So in the short term, I do think that people need to respect the US dollar. I've said this before, in a bull market, everyone gets all up in arms over the US dollar and how there's no reason to ever hold it. And then it goes parabolic on you. And, everyone has a plan until the dollar goes parabolic, right? So please consider that Bitcoin is a lot of exposure to the asset class already, given the current market conditions and the risk-off environment. Altcoins, I mean, they're so risky. I'm not even making videos on altcoins right now, right? I mean, I'm just talking about Bitcoin and ETH. Everything else, who cares, right? No one cares about those communities right now. Let them bleed out for a while. So this is kind of where I currently think the market stands. I think the hardest part is that if Bitcoin, whenever Bitcoin bounces, and this is something I keep going back to, like where is it actually going to bounce and see one of those nice moves. So in 2018, you can see that after we put in that lower low, from the new low, Bitcoin bounced by about 48% or so. So it was a fairly nice bounce when we got it. I mean, clearly volatility has been somewhat mitigated. I mean, it is not quite as much now, right? I mean, a 48% move would take Bitcoin back to 45K. Is it possible that Bitcoin could go back to 45, 46K? Yeah, it's possible. That's also where the yearly open is. So I don't think you can say that it can't happen. But I don't think Bitcoin has really any good chance of putting in new all-time highs. Not this year, right? So 40K is probably a more realistic target if we get a bounce from these levels, or even if we go down to 25K and then bounce, maybe we bounce all the way back up to 40K. But the key thing you need to watch, what it really is, it's the 200-day, okay? You look at the 200-day, it tells you a lot in a bear market. It tells you a lot. A whole lot. Here's the 200-day. What do you notice about it in a bear market? You get rejected by it. Okay, crypto investors know what rejection feels like. Okay, so you get rejected by the 200-day in a bear market. That's what's happening now. If we come back up and we get rejected by it, so be it, right? That's sort of the expectation, right? That should be the expectation until proven otherwise. Over here, it took until April of 2019 to prove otherwise. And then we went on a rally for a while. Bitcoin went up 4x. It was a great half year. I mean, honestly, I remember actually I was at the park with my kids, and I remember like looking at Bitcoin. It was like 13K, and I was like, what in the world is going on? Like, it almost feels like we're about to put in a new all-time high or something. And I don't really think there were a lot of YouTubers that were making videos back over there, and I don't think a lot of people really believed it. And then there we were, right? We were still up. So I would say you should expect some like bounces, significant bounces by altcoins, like they're not just going to go down and stay down without seeing some type of bounces, because there's plenty of people that want to buy the dip. It's just the problem is that a lot of these people that have been buying the dip, I mean, how's it been working out so far? So the good news is that Luna is up 24% on the day because I guess it closed yesterday down 55% or something. So now it's actually bounced back up a little bit. Now it's at $37. Um, so is USDC? Let's see what it does here. Let's see if it can regain the peg. So one of the things that I think is worth watching here, okay, is Bitcoin, if it can bounce off of the summer lows. So far, it's been unable to do so. So far, every bounce instantly gets sold off. But there's a good chance we get some type of a bounce at some point here. And if we do bounce, what are you looking for? You're looking for the 200-day SMA. Okay, if we get rejected there, that's sort of like a red flag. If the 200-day keeps holding resistance. So, don't forget that. I mean, and the 200-day right now is all the way up at like 46K. Okay, so remember the 200-day it exists. It's up here. This is what we watched during this rally over here, and we got rejected by it, and then we came all the way back down. When thinking about there's something we have to talk about too. We often think about things like market cycles, right, and market cycle bottoms. I don't know exactly where the bottom's going to be, but two things. First of all, I will say, given the macroeconomic conditions, I'm hesitant to get bullish. Okay, I'd like to see some of that get worked out, right? I'd like to see that get worked out first. But one thing to consider is the weekly RSI on Bitcoin has been in a bear market for over a year already. Okay, I mean, it's been in a bear market for over a year, since January of 2021. And it recently put in a new low. And if you sort of connect these lines, dubiously in fact, right, you can kind of see what's going on. Okay, the weekly RSI is sort of getting squeezed here. And, what we're looking for, or what I'm thinking potentially, is, we've sort of been bouncing off of this for a while, right? We've been bouncing off this lower trend line on the weekly RSI. So let's suppose Bitcoin comes through in the clutch for us and gets some type of a bounce off of the summer lows, plus or minus a few K, right? Let's just say plus or minus a few K, 27K. I used to say 27 to 33. Clearly it's at least 29 because we already went to 29.7. So let's say somewhere between let's say somewhere between 30K minus a few $1,000s, because plus is already behind us. So if we see some type of a bounce off this level, that could honestly correspond to going back up to the 200-day moving average. Okay, and if that happens, you need to keep an eye on whether it breaks out or not. If it doesn't break out above the 200-day, which will be a big battle if and when that occurs, then you're looking at basically coming in and putting in another low. And then continuing to fight, and then probably eventually we'll hopefully break out to the upside, and we'll start a new bull market. But right now, the best way to lose money, if you want to lose money quickly, it's buying every altcoin dip in preparation for it to go up a lot in the short term, or over a 6-month period. I would be patient. This is just lessons learned the hard way. I would try to be patient for a little while longer. Before you get too cavalier on altcoins, but you never know. I mean, there's day traders out there, I'm sure, scooping up some altcoins now that they're down, a lot, in hope that Bitcoin bounces and that it'll take altcoins with it. But know that it's sort of a day trader's game right now in the altcoin market, not so much the long investor game. And again, it always sort of takes me back to, people can make money in a bull market, but you get rich in a bear market. You get rich in a bear market by being patient and sort of waiting for a while, waiting for us to at least hit some type of a bottom, and then you start to DCA. Not in the downtrend, right? Not in the downtrend so much. So I'm sort of in the camp that Bitcoin is the exposure that you want to the asset class right now, with maybe a little bit of some other stuff, but I wouldn't get too heavy on it. and cash is king. I mean, cash is king, right? What do you think gives you more power in a bear market? Altcoins or cash? I give you a hint, in altcoins. So, all right. What questions do we have? Someone says Bitcoin's above 40K on the UST chart. I gotta go check this out. Hold on. Bitcoin UST. Am I looking at the right thing? Maybe this isn't updated. I don't know. Bitcoin UST. Did I click on USDT or something? Here it is, guys. All right. For one moment in time, we can at least pretend like Bitcoin's back over 40K right now by looking at the valuation against the UST, which is currently trading at 75 cents on the dollar. So there you go. There you go. That's our silver lining for the day. All right. What questions? Yeah, I know people are going to talk about buying the UST dip. I mean, look, guys, I understand the appeal, and maybe it'll work out for you, but I'm not touching it. I hope it works out for you, though. Someone says we didn't reach peak euphoria. We did. Okay. I see this narrative going around where people say we never reached peak euphoria. We did reach peak euphoria if you account for diminishing returns. This is something we talked about throughout the entirety of 2021, is that people don't account for diminishing returns and they look at these on-chain metrics and assume they're going to perform the same way. They don't account for diminishing returns. You account for diminishing returns, what happens? We hit peak euphoria in March of 2021. That was peak euphoria when you account for diminishing returns. If you don't account for it, yeah, you say we didn't hit peak euphoria because we didn't go up as crazy as 2017. We still hit it. It was just people didn't factor in diminishing returns. So we did hit peak euphoria. That's I think we hit it. I think it was just everyone thought Bitcoin, there's so many people that thought Bitcoin was going to go so much higher in 2021 that they're sort of they think that it didn't hit peak euphoria because it didn't go to the price that they wanted it to. But you can't look at me and tell me in February and March we weren't feeling very euphoric. We were. Okay, there was a lot of euphoria at the time. I was telling people on the premium side that I was, putting sell orders for altcoins, and I was getting nasty DMs from people telling me that, you sold your Bitcoin at 60K and now it's going to go to 300K, like you're an idiot, right? So we did hit it. It's just that no one realized it happened. But it happened. It happened in March of 2021. So it did happen. It's just people don't want to admit that it happened is the problem. I mean, look, we could argue what is peak euphoria. According to the risk metric, it was peak euphoria. We went to 0.94 risk, very similar to 2017. So I think it was peak euphoria back in early 2021. So the dollar is always interesting. And my videos on the dollar never do so well. But I'll tell you, there's more important stuff on this chart than you want to believe there is, okay? The dollar tells the story, and you either choose to listen to it or you don't, okay? It hit a peak in December of 2016. Bitcoin peaked exactly 1 year later. It hit peak euphoria 1 year later in December of 2017. The US dollar peaked in April or so, late March, early April of 2020. And when did we hit peak euphoria? In March and April of 2021. A year later. Okay? So you look at the dollar, when it peaks and we start a new downtrend, Perhaps we'll hit some type of euphoria phase for Bitcoin 1 year later. But there's no evidence that it's peaked yet, right? It might, maybe has, but there's no evidence that it has for sure. It's an important chart. You should look at this chart more. Look for it to top, and only after it tops will Bitcoin start to become a little bit more intriguing from, like, speculating on a bull market. As long as the U.S. dollar is in an uptrend, you might as well assume that markets remain risk off. Since there's diminishing returns, will there be diminishing losses? There have already been diminishing losses. So that is a thing. Some people don't like diminishing returns, but it normally leads to diminishing losses. For instance, in 2011, the drop was about 93, 94%. In 2013, the drop was, 80, 87, 86%, 87% or something like that. In 2018, the drop was 83, 84%. So, you can see that the losses aren't quite as bad each time. If we take this from, say, like 69K or something, a 70% drawdown will put us at 20K. Okay? If it goes to 75%, that's where it gets to 17K. It can happen, right? It can happen. It doesn't mean it has to. We have seen diminishing losses as well, but it doesn't mean it can't go down more. So, anyways. Yeah, like, guys, I know a lot of people lost money on Luna, and it sucks. And I'm sorry that happened to you. Um, One of the things you can do is try to use it as a lesson to not be as risky. I've lost a lot of money in these markets, learning lessons the hard way. Happens all the time. I had to take a loss on a trade 2 months ago. Some trades work out, some don't. You gotta move on sometimes. I do think a lot of the altcoins, especially some of the layer ones, will eventually recover, but doesn't mean that they won't get more painful first, right? So you need to be. This is a long-term game here. How's the volume looking? That's a good question. Honestly, I hope we get a bounce. I hope it bounces. I still, even if it bounces, I still think there's a good chance we go to the 200 week eventually. But I would prefer a bounce, basically just so that maybe Bitcoin can regain some dominance. Okay, so I would actually prefer to see a bounce than to just see it go straight down. Um, the volume, where are we on this? It looks like we've already put in about half as much volume this week as we did the entire last week. So in about one day, we put in half as much volume as the entire last week or so. Let me check liquidations. Actually, I have it on my website. This is my website, by the way, if you guys want to sign up into thecryptoverse.com. Derivatives, liquidations. Let's go to total liquidations on Bitcoin. Long liquidation's been like 261 million. In the last 15 minutes, I have 5 million or so. 5 million liquidated in the last 15 minutes. Here's minute by minute liquidations. Anyways, 24-hour liquidations. Liquidation count. Woo. It's a nice move. All right, it's back to 81. Let's see if it regains its peg. Even if it does, I think I don't think investors are going to immediately regain their confidence. Luna's taken. I mean, Luna's probably been punished the most, right? If you go look at the RSI on Luna, I mean, it has to have been hammered. Let's go look at it on like the 1 day. Yeah, I mean, this is bad. Not as bad as it has been worse though. It has been worse. Anyways, we'll see. We'll see where this thing takes us. Ether's down to 2281. All right, what do you guys want to do? What's my guess on CPI? So inflation's coming out in what, 2 or 3 days in CPI data. Fed's got to remain hawkish until inflation gets under control for sure. Last month it was 8.5% year over year. I think consensus is 8.1% for this month. I'm going to say it's going to be 8.2. I'll guess 8.2%. I'm going to say slightly lower than last month, but not convincingly lower where it's going to change the Fed's mind on anything. So that's my guess. I'm going to say 8.2. Someone says CPI is the nail in the coffin. I don't know. I mean, you could imagine Bitcoin's been getting wrecked so much. So, I mean, one potential narrative, right, is Bitcoin gets wrecked until CPI data comes out, and then maybe it's not. Maybe it's less than last month, and then you see some type of a bounce by Bitcoin or something. And I mean, again, I would like to see it bounce back up to 40K and regain some dominance. This is what I would like to see Bitcoin sort of have like a nice bounce back up, because I mean it's been sold off fairly quickly today. I actually, you know what? How low did it go? Ah, man, dang! I have a limit order. I have a limit order at 29.5, so it's not been filled. Um, Anyways, I guess we went to 29.7. So we'll see what happens. I mean, maybe the CPI data will be a sell the rumor, buy the news type thing. I don't know. We'll see what happens with it, but might correspond to us getting a bounce off of the lower low. Yeah, guys, look, I mean, I know these phases are difficult, okay, and me being bearish can be difficult, but I still have long term conviction in the asset class. I mean, it's not going anywhere. We have to cleanse the space for a little bit, but it's not going anywhere. So, I mean, to some degree, these things are useful for the market, um, and the way the market's been cleansed, Bitcoin dominance goes up. If Bitcoin dominance doesn't go up, then so be it. I mean, I'm heavy Bitcoin either way, but I mean, I hope it goes up. Someone says ADA is not an alt. Well, what is it if it's not an alt? One thing I'll warn people about is that in a bear market, it becomes super easy to get comfortable with Bitcoin being in a downtrend, right? It becomes super easy, and you become so apathetic to the market that you just sort of assume it keeps going down and down and down and down, and then eventually it stops going down, right? Like eventually it stops going down, and it's hard to shift your mindset to it going up again. So what I would like to see, what I would really like to see is I'd like to see Bitcoin bounce somewhere off of the summer lows, okay, off of these lows. We hit the summer low, by the way, more or less, within a couple $100. So I'd like to see it bounce somewhere around these levels, and maybe go all the way back up to 40K, Okay, that's what I would like to see. Why? Because I think the dominance would go up in that scenario, and I think we really need the dominance to go up. So that's kind of that's the camp that I'm sort of sitting in right now with what I would like to see happen. The only reason I'm not 100% convinced of it, well, I'm not 100% convinced of anything, but it's just that normally when you drop below the 100 week, I shouldn't say normally. Over here, when we dropped below the 100 week, we immediately fell to the 200. But in 2014, that's actually not the case. We dropped below the 100, and then we actually had a rally back up. Okay, and we rallied all the way back up. I wonder where we rallied to. Where do you think we rallied to? Where was the 100? Let me go back. Okay, so the 100 was right here in October of 2014. We rallied back up to the 200 day. Right back up to the 200 day SMA. So if we get the rally off the summer lows, that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the 200 day, looking at this guy right here, looking at him, and we'll see what happens. If we capitulate to the 200 week, then we're basically ripping the band-aid off. Okay, that's where the market currently stands. Will Solana survive the bear market? Get asked that a lot about a lot of coins. Solana, the Solana Ether valuation is an interesting thing to look at. I think in the short term, Sol ETH is going down. Okay, so when these patterns start to play out and they emerge, when you get starting to get rejected by this stuff, you kind of assume that it's just going to keep getting rejected for a while. Okay, so will Solana eventually recover? There's a decent chance. I'm not gonna count it out. Just because I didn't write it during this last cycle doesn't mean it's not a good crypto. But it is more centralized than some of the ones I prefer. But it still has done relatively well. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a buyer of Solana at these prices. I feel like I missed the boat on it. Um, but I mean, if it keeps bleeding for 3 more months or 5 more months, then maybe I'm a buyer. Okay, but I'm not right now. No, I'm not really that pessimistic about Solana. I mean, I think it's one of the ones that I will say this, and I fall victim to this too. It's easy to be biased about something that you missed the train on. Okay, and I missed the train on Solana, believe me. So I'm not trying to FUD it or anything like that. I think there's a good chance it will eventually recover. It's just that in the short term, I don't want to tell people that I think it's going to immediately recover, because then they might think, oh, $66 is a good price. Whereas in actuality, if Bitcoin drops to 20K or something, Solana could go much lower. So I want people to consider that, yes, it could eventually recover, but it doesn't mean that it can't drop like 80% from the all-time high first. It's already, well, I guess it's already down to almost 80%. It's down 74% right now. 80% down puts it at around $52. 85 would put it down at 38. 90 would put it down at 24. 95 would put it down at 12. So look, I mean, if I don't know, I mean, I'm very stingy when it comes to putting money into altcoins. Like, I don't like putting money into altcoins unless I feel like we're at like near a cycle bottom or something. If Solana comes south this way and enters like an accumulation phase or something over here, I'll probably be a buyer of it. Okay. Um, if it does something like this, where it sort of just bounces around up here, I don't know that I'll have the confidence to buy it just because I'll be constantly worried about it doing something like this. Maybe they say like scared money doesn't make any money, but it's just there. You know, there's risks I'm willing to take, and there's risks I'm not willing to take. And buying an altcoin that went up this much. I mean, look at this on a linear scale. You know, I mean, you look at this and it's to me it seems like there's a pretty clear direction, right? Like, I mean, look at it. I mean, you know, I mean, it seems like it's got to do something like this, right? And then maybe pick up steam eventually, and then go maybe it'll go back up again. But in the short term, I mean, maybe you get short term bounces, but I'm not so optimistic in the short term. Yeah, if you don't believe the alt ether valuations, just go look at Chainlink. Man, Link has been wrecked, absolutely wrecked. I mean, this was one of my best investments in 2019 and 2020, and probably one of my worst investments in 2021. You don't win them all, that's for sure. But look, I mean, once it starts getting rejected by the bull market support band on Ether, it just keeps going down. So, I mean, Link Ether is now down 92%. Probably going to see some similar charts on some other altcoins. Maybe Link will recover soon. Tends to be a bear market coin, but look at XRP. I don't really get the obsession that people have with XRP. Like there's so many channels that focus like only on XRP, and it's been like one of the worst performing coins this cycle. Like it's one of the coins that didn't even put in a new all-time high. Like I honestly don't get the obsession with it. I don't get it. I mean, I'm not saying it can't eventually put on a new all-time high, but like you have people that have literally harped on this coin for the last 3 years, and it's literally one of the only ones that never put in a new all-time high in 2020 or 2021. So I think some people have said their vows and they got married to XRP a couple years ago, and they just basically are willing to ride it no matter what. But I mean, I look at this and I say, will it go up eventually? Yeah, maybe, but you know, you basically just spent the last 3 years riding one of the few coins that didn't put in a new all-time high in the top 10. So I don't know. I mean, it's hard to look at XRP and get super optimistic on it. Yeah, I mean, like people say it's been suppressed by the case. I'm not saying you're wrong. I mean, I'm not. I'm not saying you're wrong. Like I'm not. I understand that. But the point is like it doesn't matter. I mean, like if that makes you feel better to sleep at night, fine. But at the end of the day, all that matters is the number on the screen, and it never. I mean, it hasn't done anything. Okay, we can rationalize it all we want. By the way, like I bought some XRP in late 2020. My cost basis on it was like 30 cents or 36 cents or something. It did terribly. I say this as someone who had a position. I'm not saying it as someone who's never owned it. I owned some back in 2017 in that cycle. Okay, I'm not saying it as someone who's never bought it. I'm saying it as someone who has held it and saw it do well in 2017, I watched it not do a damn thing in 2021. So I just don't understand the obsession with it. Like I mean, it just. I mean, look. Hopefully it will put in a new all-time high eventually. Again, I have a small bag. I can't even sell because of the case going on. But I don't understand why people obsess over it so much. There's been a lot of other coins that did much better than XRP, and it kind of feels like XRP missed out on the entire bull run because of this case, you know. And I don't really care to follow the case on a day by day basis. Like I'll just sort of ignore it until it gets solved, and then I'll be like, all right, maybe it'll do something now. But until then, why worry about it? I'm not saying the court case doesn't matter. I'm just saying I don't really want to waste my time following it. Yeah, like, guys, like every altcoin can eventually become a cult like following. Okay, so be careful about this. One of the things I hate about the cryptoverse is are the cult followings that happen. So you have people that join, they make a lot of money on an altcoin, and then they don't have any, they're not open minded about it at all. Don't become these people. Do not marry an altcoin. Okay, you can date them for a while. I think that's fine, but I wouldn't get married because you know what happens, right? You know what happens. The divorce is a lot harder. So try to remember: do not marry an altcoin. You can date them. That's it. Right? Don't fall into this cult-like mentality behind them because altcoins come and go. All right. Bitcoin dominance is not going up that much. Why? I don't know, man. Maybe we're waiting on the bounce. I don't know, but I think it should go up. I think it should. If it doesn't, my prediction on that will go down in a blaze of glory, but hopefully it does. Yeah, everyone's pointing the finger at every other altcoin and saying, "Oh, I'm not in a cult." They are. No, if you spend your days in some of these chat rooms and you've been in those chat rooms for a year or two, and you constantly, it's the same thing. You don't point the finger at the other guy. Point the finger at yourself. I've also been in that situation before. It's hard to recognize you're in it until you get out of it. You basically become attached to an altcoin because it's like the best thing ever, and then one day you're like, wait a second, maybe this isn't the most groundbreaking thing ever. No, I don't think the Bitcoin dominance is going to go to 90%. Maybe I think maybe between 50 to 60%, but not 90. Hey guys, people saying that some altcoins are going to decouple from Bitcoin. No, they're not. Nothing's going to decouple right now, guys. We're in a bear market. You think that these things are going to make a difference? It doesn't mean anything. Okay, it's the truth. I'm not saying it to be mean. I'm saying it so you wake up and smell the coffee. It doesn't mean a thing if we're risk off. Okay, it doesn't. It does not mean a thing. So don't tell me that some hard fork or some new protocol is gonna change that altcoin. Probably not. Okay, just be patient, wait out the risk off phase, and eventually we'll go back to risk on. But don't assume anything matters until then. Has well number three been up to anything? We checked in on him earlier. I don't think he's done anything. I mean, he did something a few days ago. Yeah, he there's 1,000 Bitcoin inflow on May 6th, but nothing in the last 3 days. Sure, we can go look at ADA ETH. We looked at Sol ETH. We can look at ADA ETH too. All right, here's ADA ETH. If ADA ETH drops another 30% and Bitcoin's back at the 200-week SMA or something, then maybe it becomes more attractive. If you see ADA ETH down another 30% or so. Until then, who cares? Or risk off. Gold is not doing well. Yeah, gold's not doing so well. That is true. So, what do you guys want to do? It's a Monday night. We just gonna watch the prices crash. Honestly, I'm kind of over these platforms buying Bitcoin and making a big spectacle of it. The space was fine before all that stuff happened, and now you're watching stuff happen afterwards. I'd kind of prefer to just kind of move away from that that model that sort of developed. Yeah, I don't know. Where is UST now? Has it recovered or no? Nope. No, it is not. 73 cents on the dollar. Stable coins. Kyle looks like he wants me to play chess. Kyle Strickland. If almost all alts are bleeding against Bitcoin, why isn't the dominance going up? I think probably because the stablecoin dominance is going up right now. Yeah, it's because stablecoin dominance is skyrocketing. So maybe once the stablecoin dominance, uh, like if Bitcoin bounces, then people might go back into Bitcoin because they've lost some confidence in altcoins. I'm not saying altcoins won't bounce. If Bitcoin bounces, they will. But maybe Bitcoin would lead the charge, and then you would see USDT dominance come back down some in favor of Bitcoin dominance. Bill says I'm a negative Nancy. What do you want me to do? You want me to tell you to everything's going to be okay? I mean, all the people that have told you to buy altcoins the last few months, what are they doing now? Are they just telling you to buy the dip? What do you want me to say? All right, guys. Um, you guys want to call it? Yeah, I think MicroStrategy's cost base is around 30.7. So kind of back down to that. I'm honestly surprised that there's this many people still here. Like, there's still almost, there's 4,500 people watching right now, which is kind of shocking to some degree. Um, by the way, make sure you guys give the video a thumbs up. I don't really asked that recently, but we have almost 4,500 people watching and we only have 1,200 likes. It doesn't cost you anything except a mouse click. Maybe we could go take a look at my YouTube analytics. Does anyone want to see that? We can see who's tuning in. Let's go. Um, check it out. So we're going to go over to analytics. All right. And we're going to go to lifetime. Look at this. It's going up. What's going on here? Look, my views are going up. Last 90 days. They're going up. I guess you guys like the pain. Watch time. Oh, we just hit 10 million hours. We hit 10 million watched hours. Think about that. Think about how much time people have watched this channel. 10 million hours. Estimated revenue on AdSense is still holding resistance at $0.00. In a bull market, it holds support on $0.00, but in a bear market, it holds resistance at $0.00. Some people say that I'm making a lot of videos because of all the AdSense revenue. It's still a $0.00. I don't know what you're talking about. Watch time hours going up some. Views going up. There's some people interested. Some of you guys are interested. Audience. Let me, what am I looking for? Audience. $75% of you guys are subscribed. That's pretty good. 94% male. That's not surprising, is it? 94% male. 5.9% female. So for every like 20 people or something, there's one woman. 0.1% of people are between 13 to 17. 18 to 24 is 11%. 25 to 34 is 43.3%. 35 to 44 is 29.4%. So statistically, if you're watching me right now, there's a good chance you are a male between the ages of 25 to 44. There's a good chance that's who you are. Male between the ages of 25 to 44. Living in either the United States, the United Kingdom, Australia, Canada, and the Netherlands. Let me go look at this. Okay, so in viewership order, United States, United Kingdom, Australia, Canada, Netherlands, Germany, and then it really falls off after Germany from 4.2 to India, 2%, then 1.4% for Spain, then Belgium, Singapore, Switzerland, Sweden, Portugal, Romania, Poland, France, Philippines, Ireland, Italy, Norway, Austria, Malaysia, Turkey, Brazil, Slovenia, Indonesia, and so on and so forth. There you have it. Hopefully that was interesting. All right, guys. Remember, if you want to check out all the premium stuff, all the liquidation charts, the social media statistics, the on-chain stuff, the regression stuff, the ROI stuff, all that sort of stuff, intothecryptoverse.com is where you should go. I'll put it in the chat here. Go check it out. But gosh, I don't know what I'm. It's like part of me wants to leave. The other part of me is like, the minute I leave, that's when the market's gonna move. UST status? Someone asks. UST. 79 cents on the dollar. Yeah, we could play a couple games of chess. If you guys want to challenge me, you can go ahead and go challenge me. All right, someone just challenged me. Bitcoin's still at 31K. You guys aren't missing anything. Okay. It's not doing anything. Bitcoin's now at 30.9. UST is trading for 75 cents on the dollar. So there you have it. Um, I'm always bad at playing and talking. Sorry. It's not the easiest thing to do. Bitcoin's 38.40, 38.26. Ether's still at 2,300. Luna's still down at 34 bucks. Sure, I'll take it. I'm currently up 2 pawns. Bitcoin still 30.8. Fork, the king, and the rook. mean, they're going to run out of time. All right, good game. I mean, they ran out of time, but I think I had this one pretty much sealed. Oh, look at that. Bitcoin hasn't done anything. Chess will get you through the bear market one game at a time. One game at a time. All right. Someone says Link's RSI is at an all-time low. Is that true? It is. Seems like it's maybe it'll break out one day. We'll always dream of that day. All right, guys. I think we'll wrap it up there. I mean, what better way to end it other than a game of chess? So why don't we wrap it up there? If you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe, give the video a thumbs up. And remember, we do have Into the Cryptoverse Premium. We don't really monetize other than that. So intothecryptoverse.com. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you next time.